Good afternoon once again. Meeting of the Capital Program Oversight Committee is called to order. Who is handling the public speakers? Mr. Spiro? Any members of the public registered and wishing to speak?
Yes, there are two public speakers, Jason Panero and Omar Vera. First, Jason Panero.
Good afternoon. I can't be delighted enough of seeing that finally subway cars that are old as my own self are going to replace. Thank God this is happening. That the R62 and R62As are going to be replaced. Because it's not acceptable of having 30-plus year cars still running that are equivalent to my age. And let's say we want CBTC already on the next line, is over capacity. We cannot ride a single 4 and 5 trains during PM peak because they are so packed like sardines. That's why we need more trains, more frequency, more reliability. And of course, we need the signals to be updated because they're in the Stone Age. So let's see if we see improvements abroad, the MTA, and especially on buses, and replacing 20-plus year buses that should be retired a long time ago. So see you guys on Thursday.
Thank you very much. Omar Vera.
Good afternoon. Happy New Year. MTA CPOC meeting. So, pleasure you to join us, Mr. President Byford. Come take a seat. All right. What I was going to say was that, yes, like Jason said, R262s. We can't wait to see the new cars coming through. Well, first we're waiting for the R211s so they can replace the R46s that mainly run on the A and the R and some F trains and the Rockaway Park Shuttle. Then we also need to see the, in addition to the Staten Island Railway. Next, we're seeing the R262s will replace the R62, R62As. It's time we start automating the system, making it CVCC. We're doing it little by little, but eventually we will be there. We will be there, 21st century. And I'm waiting for the day where eventually, about a year or two later, perhaps, give or take a couple of years, that we'll have a plan to replace the R68, R68As, because they're eventually going to come up. Remember, Andrew, it's a 40-year cycle. Time's gone by. We're almost at the end of the 2010s. And eventually, it's 2020s. I'm going to miss them, too, eventually, because the R68s, I love their walls, the silver walls. But, with the time goes, you have to meet with the new. But anyway, besides that, I also like the Enhanced Station Initiative that's going forward. And hopefully we can find a plan for finally reconstructing the Canarsie Tunnel, because I mentioned earlier, the governor's sudden announcement was just an automatic shock, because we were spending 3 years planning for this reconstruction.
Thank you. Please conclude your remarks.
I will. With that, thanks everyone, and I'll see you around soon.
And that concludes the public speakers, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Spiro. Managing Director Hakem.
I think we need a motion on the minutes, perhaps?
Yes. Right. Minutes of December meeting. I chaired that too. Any changes? Hearing none. All in favor? Opposed? Abstaining? The minutes are accepted. Thank you. Now, Managing Director Hakem.
Committee work plan. The report on the Sandy Recovery and Resiliency Division originally was scheduled for today, and that's been postponed a couple months. The next time Transit presents to CPOC. We'd also like to present the proposed 2019 CPOC work plan. It's in your committee books. We'd like to ask for a motion on that for approval.
Is there a motion to approve the work plan? Second. Discussion, all in favor? Opposed, abstaining, the work plan is approved. And now,
New York City
capital program update?
Right. The first report, the progress report on the subway car program, and John Santamaria will present for transit.
Good afternoon. I'm John Santamaria, Vice President and Chief Mechanical Officer for the Department of Subways. Today, I'll be presenting New York City Transit's update on the subway car capital program. This report will cover 2 ongoing subway car projects, as well as a discussion of the Fast Forward CBTC and fleet initiatives after that. The R211 procurement of up to 1,612 cars for the B Division and Staten Island Railway, the R179 contract for an original 300 B Division cars plus 16 additional cars to settle liquidated damages, and the proposed Fast Forward projects to provide CBTC-equipped trains to meet the accelerated CBTC schedule throughout the A Division. First, a reminder that New York City Transit's railcar fleets are designed and maintained to achieve a 40-year useful life. New subway car purchases are undertaken to allow retirement of cars after approximately 40 years of service. This chart represents an age breakdown of our subway car fleet, which consists of over 6,500 cars, including those operating on Staten Island Railway. The average age of our fleet is currently 23 years. The purchase of up to 1,612 R211 B Division subway cars will replace the aged NYCT R46 and Staten Island Railway R44 fleets, as well as providing additional cars for service growth. This project includes many new features to increase capacity and improve the customer experience, such as wider doors and niches, LED interior and door indication lighting, and digital advertisement signs. In addition, the agency's goals for safety, reliability, and sustainability are embedded into the R211 design, with features such as CCTV, video network recorders, enhanced customer information signs, and the latest car-borne monitoring and diagnostic tools. The contract to purchase the R211 cars was approved at the January 2018 board meeting and was awarded on February 16, 2018. The base order of this contract consists of 440 standard NYCT cars, known as the R211A, 20 open gangway test cars, the R211T, and 75 Staten Island Railway cars, the R211S. Contract options for additional cars will be funded in a future capital program, aligning the commitment of NYCT's capital funding with the planned delivery timelines for these cars, which will span multiple capital program periods. As detailed in the slide, the initial prototype R211A train is scheduled to arrive in July 2020, followed by the R211T cars in May 2021 and the R211S cars in December 2021. Yes, Andrew.
Is there a reason the manufacturer's name is not here?
None at all. It's Kawasaki.
Yeah, but it's not mentioned anywhere here.
I'll make note of that.
I thought it was. It had to be. Thank you.
The R211 contract also includes 2 options. Under these options, the rate of car delivery will be accelerated from 30 cars per month in the base order to 40 cars per month. Option 1 includes 640 cars, which are anticipated to arrive between 2023 and 2024. NYCT forecasts exercising the option in the first quarter of 2022, with the decision for an open gangway configuration to be made later in that year, pending successful validation of the open gangway design as part of the base order. Option 2 includes a quantity of up to 437 additional cars for fleet growth based on future ridership and service projections. During last year's CPOC meeting, NYCT forecasted exercising this option by the third quarter of 2023. However, since the award of the contract, the estimated date for exercising option 2 was revised to be the fourth quarter of 2023. Yes, Andrew?
Are these being built in Kansas and assembled in New York State? I mean, what part of this is New York State, out of curiosity?
So a portion of the cars, depending on the production cycle, will be built in Yonkers and also in Nebraska.
Nebraska, I meant, yeah. So half and half, something.
I wouldn't say half and half, it's detailed, but both sites will be fabricating the cars.
Thank you.
Since our last report to CPOC in January 2018, the R211 program has been advancing at a steady pace in support of this aggressive delivery schedule. Some notable points of this progress include preliminary design reviews for car body, structure, communication, and doors have been completed, with additional car subsystem reviews progressing as scheduled. Quality assurance audits at specific vendor sites commenced in August of 2018 and are continuing. Fabrication of the mock-up is underway as well. With respect to a 180-day look ahead, critical design reviews continue throughout the year, as will subsystem qualification testing. In addition, the review of the R211 mock-up is scheduled for April 2019 in Kobe, Japan. This next series of slides highlight the various fabrication efforts underway for the R211 full car mock-up. As previously mentioned, some of the notable features of the R211 design are wider door openings, wider niches, and door indication lighting. These photos illustrate the fabrication of the car side panel on the left, clearly pointing out the larger door openings, and a completed side panel and door installation on the right. These images show the fabrication of the bonnet with the incorporation of LED lighting and a sleek design on the left, and a completed truck frame assembly on the right. These images here illustrate the process of taking a fabricated anti-climber, shown on the left, installing it into the end underframe on the upper right, and integrating that frame into the car body shell on the lower right. Sure.
These were obviously on display at Hudson Yards. Many of us had an opportunity to look at the mock-up, and there were several suggestions about the height of some of the bars. Do you know if any adjustments have been made, or the placement of some of the bars?
Based on the surveys that were collected during that mock-up at Hudson Rail, at the Hudson Rail train site, thank you, Hudson Yards. That information was passed on to the car builder, and in some cases, yes, there were changes made to location of signs and height as well.
Great, thank you.
Are we ready for R179?
Okay, moving on to the R179 project update. Shown here are the major scope, budget, and schedule facts for the R179 rail car purchase. I will address the schedule issues in more detail in a moment. The overall budget for the project is $744 million, including contingency. This is an increase of $3.4 million from last year's report for EMI test track work that was performed by in-house forces. The current and anticipated car builder change orders are well within the contingency budget. As of January 11, 2019, a total of 162 cars have been delivered, with 128 cars available for service on the J, Z, and C lines. Upon successful completion of the 30-day qualification in-service testing, the delivery of 5 car operating units would commence later this quarter. We remain cautiously optimistic that this revised delivery schedule can be achieved. Getting into more detail, the R179 contract is for 316 new 60-foot cars for the B Division. These cars will support service growth on various B Division lines. The original R179 contract at award in 2012 was for 300 B Division 60-foot cars to be delivered by January 2017. As you know, the schedule was not met, and now NYCT will receive an additional 16 cars to settle liquidated damages resulting from production delays. In last year's update to CPOC, we reported a 24-month delay in the start of production deliveries. At this time, Bombardier successfully completed qualification of the 8-car configuration, and production deliveries commenced in January of 2018. The center portion of the table lists the negotiated schedule milestone dates, specifically that the 316 cars would be delivered by April 2019, with a production rate of 1 car per day to be reached by August 2018. The overall delivery completion of the 316 cars has shifted from January 2019, as reported at last year's CPOC briefing, to September 2019. The total delay to completion of production deliveries is now 31 months.
So, Mr. Chair, I'll just pick up there because obviously that's disappointing. What I would say is this is deja vu times 2 for me. I've been around this cycle now twice with Bombardier. Twice in Toronto, once with what's called the Toronto Rockets, which are the now excellent, and I'll come back to that point, through trains. They're open gangway trains. So, by the way, on the R211s, I'm very excited about open gangway. We'll wait and see, but I'll be amazed if we don't exercise that option because I think it's the way to go. But then the second time I went round this cycle was with the what are called Flexity streetcars, which are the new streetcars in Toronto, which again followed the same cycle, namely, an initially attractive bid, lots of great promises, lots of nice mock-ups, but then Bombardier seemed to get into all sorts of difficulty with the actual production run, all sorts of problems with design quality and problems with welds and problems with doors and traction and various other things, which does result in these rather depressing slippages that you can now see before you. What I find is, and again it's deja vu, is you end up, it's grueling. You have to stay on their case, you have to hold their hands, you have to cajole them, you have to apply liquidated damages, which we've been doing. You have to make it very clear to them that they're not going to get another contract the way they're going. And what typically then happens is eventually they get the build quality right, and suddenly they start to come off the production line like a well-oiled machine. The bathtub curve evaporates, in other words, the initial product unreliability, and you end up with a very good product. That was certainly my experience in Toronto, where the rockets, the trains, the open gangway trains, were doing on occasions 1 million kilometers mean distance between failure. They were remarkable. They were Asian style levels of quality. But to give you some indication as to how much we're driving this thing, we've got senior management who are up there at Plattsburgh. We actually have people on site, some of John's people, who watch what goes on, who challenge them on things like spare parts. There's been some issues with spare parts with Wabtec, one of the suppliers, who check to see what they're doing in terms of quality gating. I've been up to Plattsburgh. I had a look at the production line. They explained it all to me. They showed me where the blockages were. You deliberately veer off the production line, how you might describe it, like the little official posse, where they're giving you the official line. I always veer off and go and talk to the workers and ask them, do you actually have enough spare parts? Do you think you can meet this beat rate? Which is always revealing, A, in the answers you're given, and B, in the reaction when you break off to go and do that. We have instituted bi-weekly meetings in which I participate. The next one's tomorrow morning, where we go through unit by unit which units are stopped. In other words, units that we've already accepted that are currently out for defects. We go through the next category, which is those units that have been delivered but not yet commissioned because we're not happy with them. And then we talk about what's coming up on the production line. So the good news is the beat rate, which, in other words, the production rate, is now getting close to the 1 per day that we need. They are getting there. They've gone through the bottlenecks on the production line, and I think they will hit that 1 day beat rate soon. So that's the good news. The not so good news is we have a lot of units waiting to be commissioned. We had last week we had a ridiculous number of units out of service for various defects. As of today, there's 13 units out of service. By unit, I mean a full train. 7 should come back later today or tomorrow. So a lot of them are coming back because they'll have had a software fix applied. In other cases, they're not what I would call catastrophic failures, but there are other quality related products. So we will keep on this mission. We will keep meeting with them. I deal directly with my counterpart, who's a name familiar to the MTA, Lee Sander. Elliot Sander used to be the CEO here, now the CEO of Bombardier. And they know very clearly they've got to get their act together on this. But to just give you some assurance about our involvement, and it's not meant to be dramatic, but it is true. Short of actually building the damn things, we're doing everything else that we possibly can do. So we're helping them, we're advising them, we're cajoling them, we've got people up there, and the most recent thing we've done is stop delivery. We stop delivery because otherwise we end up with the problem with units piling up. Excuse me, that we're unable to commission, but it also hits Bombardier to have them pile up in Plattsburgh, and we're not yet turning that delivery mechanism back on until they get their act together.
Could you characterize the reason that most of the cars that have been delivered have to be taken out of service?
So there's a number of defects. The one that's hit us hardest of late has been a software defect with the HVAC system, so the air conditioning. So again, it's not what I would call a catastrophic defect. The good news is we're not talking about cracked underframes or something like that, or defective wheel sets. But we've had primarily those software defects that need to be fixed. We had a problem with I call them the bungee jumpers, but what do you guys call them?
The barrier springs.
The barrier springs. The barrier springs between the cars where they were incorrectly applied, so they're actually causing damage to the units. We've had various issues with weepage on the doors, where the doors are weeping oil, which they shouldn't be. You know, at the end of the day, we're paying for a quality product. We want a quality product, but the good news is the customers really like them. So we will get there. It's kind of painful. It's particularly annoying for me to have to do this a third time, and that is something I've pointed out to them very robustly.
Okay. Mr. Chairman. Mr. Pally.
Distressing is not a strong enough word, or frustrating or whatever, and I have no doubt that the staff, you and the staff, are doing everything you can to get delivery. The problem is that's not your job. Okay? It's not your job. And clearly, Bombardier has made a business decision that the liquidated damages they had to give us, 16 more cars, is not sufficient for them to care about. Because if it was 116 new cars, then they might have decided, you know what, we better do this right the first time. They obviously don't care about doing it right the first time, or in Mr. Byford's point, the third time in this context. They make a business decision based upon what they know they're going to have to pay us in something, based upon the amount of time that they are going to take to build it, or the amount of time they're going to take to build it right, which is different than the amount of time they're going to take to build it, as you have clearly pointed out. And I think it just shows us that in any new contract for either buses, and I'm sorry that other manufacturers are going to have to be tarred with Bombardier's problem, but it's clear to me that the liquidated damages we have put in the contract is not enough. It's as simple as that, because if it was enough, somebody there would care, and obviously nobody cares in that context. And so, you know, we have to look at, and we're going to have to look very closely at the new contracts we provide for either rail cars, subway cars, buses, the infrastructure we buy, and say to each other, wait a minute, if we don't make liquidated damages strong enough, somebody's going to make a business decision that's not going to be to our benefit. Because clearly the decisions they have made since 2012 are not in our benefit.
So if I may, Mr. Pally, we've immediately learned from that, and the liquidated damages on the R211 contract and subsequent contracts have been almost tripled as a result of our lessons learned.
And, you know, it just, and whether Bombardier is going to get another contract from us is, you know, let me ask it in a different context. How many car manufacturers are there that can meet our standards?
We have a qualification process. Bombardier is one of 4. We have a total of 4 qualified car builders.
Would the car they built that the president indicated is doing so well in Toronto now meet our standards?
I can't compare the Toronto car. It's a different system. I can't comment on how that car is designed and how it would operate on our system. So as the R179 is performing now, I see that it will perform. As Mr. Byford mentioned, they're just having a tough time getting to that point. The car is a good car.
The gauge is different in Toronto, actually. It's a unique gauge,
Right.
which actually causes quite a few problems. But, you know, typically these things are configurable. Let's just say, and obviously we've got to be careful what we say commercially, I have just made it very clear to them that they're certainly not making their case for new orders very favourable, and that right now I wouldn't be wasting my board's time in asking for further business for them.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, Dr. Metzger, well, let everybody get in on it. Dr. Metzger, Mr. Zuckerman, Mr. Brown.
To be quick, first, it's nice to get cars instead of money. So that's a good move, but we need more.
Yes.
And to reinforce what you have said, Andy, as much as we want competition, if we're comparing bids and we know that someone is chronically late by not just a couple of months, but a couple of years, this board will remember that.
I actually, oh, sorry.
Yeah. Mr. Zuckerman.
Thank you, sir. We have, as I need to confirm, though, with Ms. Rinaldi and Ms. Hakem, we have Bombardier coming in February to talk to us at the Joint Metro North Long Island Railroad Committee about their performance on positive train controls implementation, because they are the co-conspirator in the delays and challenges of software bug implementation, which, interesting enough, Andy, as you described, sounds like also is a software issue, although that is such an often part of the problems of our mechanical world we're in now. So I invite my colleagues from the CPOC committee and New York City Transit and you, Mr. Byford, to join us for that conversation, because I don't know what executives are coming from Bombardier. It's obviously a very large company, but if this person is senior enough that's coming, maybe we can share our genuine and collective viewpoints about their performance.
Yeah.
We'd love to see Lee.
He's indicated to me that he is planning on coming.
Thank you. That's great. You're able to bring the, you know, as they say, top to top. So maybe Freddie can join us also for that conversation, or maybe not. It is the earliest meeting of the day on committee day.
Mr. Brown.
I'll strive to be brief. Andy, the problems you had in Toronto, was that from a facility in Quebec, or was that from the Plattsburgh facility?
Nope, it was Thunder Bay, Ontario.
Thunder Bay, Ontario.
They do have a facility at La Pocatière in Quebec, but the streetcars and the rockets were built in Thunder Bay.
Right, so they weren't really coming out of Plattsburgh anyway.
No.
That's what I thought. Now the other question I got for you is, as a fan of the open gangway, and there's a lot of us are fans, and I notice kind of like predates your shelf life here, but do you feel that the way we're approaching it is correct? We've taken a lot of criticism from a lot of New York's unemployed planners that all come to speak to us here. That regarding the failure to procure the open gangways outright, do you feel that the way we're doing it, buying a tranche of them, checking them out, seeing how they're working, seeing how the trucks fit in and all that, do you feel that's the proper way to do it, or should have we just gone and, since it is not fairly common throughout the world, should have we just gone and said, go ahead, give me a whole bunch of cars like this, and what was the proper way to approach it?
So I think probably upon balance, we're doing the right thing in that we do have quite a demanding geography here in New York, very tight curves for starters. And one of the things with open gangway is you've basically got two choices. You can have a flexible, a soft gangway bellows, or you can have a rigid bellows. And the Toronto ones use a rigid formation. And there's also issues around stabling, because obviously typically it's a fixed formation. You can break them up, but it's not easy. They typically operate as a fixed formation. So you've got to make sure you get all the stabling right and all the maintenance approach right. But certainly my vote will be, let's have a meaningful trial, but let's not have a paralysis through analysis. Once we know these things work, the customers like them, there's no engineering issues, and fundamentally there's no operational issues, I'm advocating a quick but effective trial, then decision time. I don't want a protracted navel gaze.
Perhaps we should have a paralysis through analysis work group.
Well, actually,
I'll chair it.
We have a few. Work groups, I mean.
I do want to stress seriously that as an organization, we're committed to ensuring safety of our passengers and the overall reliability of the fleet. Our testing qualification process, our acceptance practices reflect that commitment, and I stand by that. If may I continue with the R179?
Please.
Thank you. So given this additional delay, and Dr. Metzger, you'll be happy to hear this, a settlement is underway between NYCT and Bombardier with respect to liquidated damages. As a result, at least 2 additional cars above the original 16 provided in the last settlement, as well as special tools, will be supplied as part of this contract.
But you knew that.
Bombardier intends to present other ideas to NYCT in addressing the increased lateness on the delivery schedule. As Mr. Byford mentioned earlier, on January 9, 2018, an official letter was issued to Bombardier whereby NYCT exercised our right to halt any future R179 deliveries until such time that the number of units not in service meet levels acceptable to NYCT. Shown here are photos from the various production stations for the R179 at Bombardier's Plattsburgh facility. And here are photos of the 8-car R179 trains, which are currently operating in passenger service on the J, Z, and C lines. I see you smiling, Andrew. You like that.
And just if I might jump in, the one thing I would just reiterate, a couple of points. They are nice units, and again, when they get it right, they get it right. And there's a stock called the S stock, which stands for surface stock on the tube. They're Bombardier products, again, fabulous. So they are capable of it. It's just this painless process you go through. What I would say to Commissioner Palley's comment is maybe that wasn't always the case. They do get it now. To their credit, I mean, particularly with Lee Sander, you can tell they know this is serious stuff and they are applying themselves. But better late than never, I guess.
But something to have considered now that we have the ability of hindsight is how much higher was the next best bid to Bombardier's? How much sooner would those cars have been in service, and how much sooner could we have gotten rid of the R32s and R42s, which are costing us money and which have the lowest MDBF just about of any cars?
Good point.
And of course, there's the old saying, if my grandmother had wheels.
Okay. Yeah. So moving on.
Are we done with this? IEC.
Oh, no, I have
We're
one
not
last
done.
piece.
I asked, I'm sorry.
In support of the Fast Forward initiative to accelerate CBTC implementation across the Key A Division, Lexington Avenue, and 7th Avenue corridors, NYCT must also convert and upgrade the existing R142A fleet, convert and upgrade the existing R142 fleet, and introduce a new A Division fleet, the R262, to replace the existing R62 and 62As. These projects are discussed in the following few slides. The R142A portion of the Fast Forward plan requires the CBTC conversion and system upgrades of 220 R142A division subway cars. The scope of the upgrade includes leveraging lessons learned from the R142A to R188 conversion effort to improve overall car reliability. The proposed contract award for the R142A effort is 2019, pending available funding. The R142 portion of the Fast Forward plan will include CBTC conversion and complete system upgrades of 1,030 R142 A Division subway cars. The scope of this effort includes integration of carborne systems, HVAC monitoring, diagnostics, communications, to name a few, into an Ethernet network. The proposed contract award for the R142 effort is in 2019, once again pending available funding. The final portion of the Fast Forward plan will replace the existing 1,136 R62 and R62A cars with a new fleet of CBTC-equipped R262 trains. These cars, totaling 1,500 with fleet expansion, will utilize the latest R211 technical specification requirements, including open gangway, as a baseline, integrated into an Ethernet network. This contract is proposed for award as part of a future capital program. This concludes my report on the subway car capital program.
Thank you. IEC.
Yes, good afternoon. This month's IEC report on the R211 R179 subway cars begins on page 26 of your CPOC book. I have several points I'd like to highlight from the report. On the R211 cars, the planned rate of production and acceptance of 30 cars per month for the base order, which as you heard goes to 40 cars a month for the option cars, will require a significant level of support from New York City Transit Engineering, including CBTC, as well as inspection and testing resources. They need to be well planned. With respect to the R179 cars, 49% or 154 of the cars remain to be delivered. Bombardier has yet to achieve a one-car production rate to meet the scheduled completion. Delivery is now scheduled for September 2019, 8 months later than the last report. Resolution of outstanding quality issues will make meeting this date more challenging. This concludes my remarks. Thank you.
Mr. Higgins will present the bus procurement progress report.
Good afternoon. The vision of our bus fleet is to provide the safest, most environmentally friendly bus with the latest customer amenities and onboard technologies to support improved service delivery. As we will discuss later, we are moving towards a zero emissions fleet as electric propulsion technology advances rapidly in the coming years. Today, I will highlight each of the key actions for the 4 target areas for our overall vision, and I will conclude with a summary of recent and pending procurements. In support of Vision Zero, we have approximately 617 buses with pedestrian turn warning system, which provides an audible alert to pedestrians when the bus is turning. As of April 2018, all new buses are being delivered with this technology. We plan to retrofit an additional 600 by third quarter of 2019. In addition, we will deliver 647 new buses in 2019 with this technology. Approximately 3,469 buses are equipped with cameras. Additional exterior cameras which allow for more comprehensive incident analysis have been installed on new buses starting in April 2018, with approximately 300 buses already delivered. These new cameras have already assisted our Transportation Safety Unit on several accident investigations in 2018. As you know, in 2016, we conducted a safety symposium with a number of transit agencies, union safety representatives, and bus builders with a focus on driver visibility. We were able to work with the vendors to reduce the A-pillar obscuration on new buses by approximately 50%. We have taken delivery of 671 new buses with the reduced A-pillar obscuration and will deliver 293 additional buses in 2019. Additionally, the Nova bus, which has a B-pillar, which has now been re-engineered to provide better visibility. Since September 2018, we have taken delivery of 17 of 72 articulated buses from Nova order with the high visibility windows, and will deliver 302 additional buses in 2019. 1/3 of our current capital program, 593 buses, is comprised of alternative propulsion technologies. This demonstrates our commitment to continually evaluate and advance the various technologies as we progress towards our goal of a zero-emission fleet. We have taken delivery of 105 of 110 of New York City's first ever 60-foot CNG articulated buses, which are operating in the Bronx and Brooklyn. We are operating 2 test fleets, 5 buses each, of the latest generation diesel-electric hybrid buses. The test fleets of diesel-electric hybrid buses will inform a procurement of 275 new technology diesel-electric hybrids slated for procurement in 2019. In addition, we will continue to work with the bus builders and sub-suppliers to reduce emissions with an increase in fuel economy on our new clean diesel fleet. These fuel efficiency gains in our diesel-electric hybrids, CNG, and clean diesel fleets have resulted in significant reduction in fuel consumption and overall emissions. It is important to note that the current deployment of electric buses in North America is still relatively small, consisting of approximately 400 buses dispersed among approximately 45 different properties. The 6 largest AEB agencies operate approximately 18 buses each, for a total of 110 buses. NYCT will have 10 lease buses and 60 additional buses deployed as part of the 2015 to 2019 capital program, and have committed up to 500 more in the next program. The charging infrastructure adds significant cost and challenges to the deployment of these buses. We reported last year that one of the challenges was no nationwide standard for the charging protocol. I'm happy to report that each of the 4 AEB manufacturers we are currently dealing with has now committed to meet a single standard. While they all can't produce that standard today, they are on target for our next capital program. 2 of the companies that are currently not 12-year structurally qualified, Proterra and BYD, have presented plans to have the testing performed. We have also been working with the charging equipment companies to further develop charging equipment that will allow for larger scale deployments of AEBs. While the current equipment is fine for small deployments, better controls and automation are required for larger scale deployments. The prime manufacturers are continually making adjustments to reflect technological improvements, particularly with respect to batteries. This issue has been highlighted a number of times over this past year, as several agencies are not achieving the vehicle range they expected and need for their operation. Advancements are being made that will provide more capacity and vehicle range without affecting passenger capacity. Battery capacity continues to be a major challenge in the northern cold weather regions like New York City for full zero-emission operation. Heating the vehicle in the colder months requires significantly more energy from the batteries than driving and moving a fully loaded vehicle. As you know, we started operating our 10 AEBs approximately a year ago. There have been several technical challenges throughout the year, but overall it has been a positive learning experience for us as well as the 2 bus builders. There are a number of components being re-engineered by both builders to resolve these technical challenges, and this year we will continue their evaluation. For New Flyer, which operates with 150 kilowatt batteries, construction is completed on both street chargers supporting the M42. The West Side Charger has been operational since November 2018, and the East Side Charger, which began commissioning on January 14th, will be fully operational the week of January 28th. This will allow for increased usage of the buses, since we will be able to charge them continually throughout the day. Most of last year, they were being charged midday and at night with 2 depot chargers. Proterra, which operates 440 kilowatt batteries, operated mostly on the B32 and B39 in 2018. We are currently resolving some technical issues and expect to operate buses on several longer routes this winter season. These buses are predominantly charged overnight, so they will provide more important data regarding battery capacity during winter operation. The en-route charger at Williamsburg Bridge Plaza, which is serviced by 8 additional routes, has been operational since March of 2018. The en-route charger will be used to provide supplemental charge to the bus when deployed on the longer routes if needed. Like us, other various properties are also evaluating how this technology fits into their operations. Route length and speed, climate and geographic differences are important considerations that must be thoroughly evaluated to ensure the reliability of these buses in the New York City environment and duty cycle, and help us make informed decisions about current and future deployments. As mentioned, the results of our evaluation are informing technical specifications for current and future procurements of electric buses. We are finalizing our procurement of 15 AEB 60-foot articulated buses with New Flyer to be presented to the board in January. In addition to battery capacity, we are evaluating them specifically for winter operations. They are equipped with dual drive electric axles at the rear as well as the center axle. We expect superior drive and control during inclement snow conditions. In addition, we plan to award 45 standard AEB buses during Q4 2019. We currently have 1,231 new and retrofitted buses with digital information screens from 4 manufacturers. These provide the customers with a new level of next stop information, as well as service alerts, advertising, and other digital content. We continue to deploy Wi-Fi and USB on all new buses, and all express buses have been retrofitted with this equipment. To date, we have 2,774 buses operating with Wi-Fi and 1,797 buses with USB. We are working on multiple initiatives with New York City Department of Transportation and New York City Police Department to increase bus speed on targeted corridors. In partnership with NYC DOT, the MTA is increasing the deployment of traffic signal priority, which is proven to increase bus speeds and thereby reducing passenger travel time by controlling traffic signals. We have seen a 5 to 15% improvement in travel time with TSP. The system has been deployed on 13 routes consisting of 1,074 buses. DOT is preparing to optimize additional route corridors, allowing the MTA a broader expansion of TSP in 2019 through 2021. The MTA can currently support as many routes as DOT may activate with traffic signal priority. Automatic passenger counters are currently deployed on over 1,312 buses, a combination of retrofit and new buses. The technology will provide real-time data, allowing for better management of services and schedules. We plan to pilot the bus onboard automatic bus lane enforcement ABLE system in 2019 on the M15 SBS routes. Given the growing challenge of slow bus speeds and the limitations of existing curbside camera enforcement, we are prioritizing this pilot to evaluate the potential travel time savings and bus speed impacts of using the ABLE system to create a path for wider implementation. This will include 51 buses on the M15 SBS route and approximately 30 buses on the B46 SBS route when it is converted to RTICs. We are currently working with a memorandum of agreement with New York City DOT to formalize roles and responsibilities, as well as cost and revenue distribution from this pilot. As the graph shows, the 2015 to 2019 capital program reduces the overage fleet by 240 buses. As can be seen in the yellow portion of the bars in the graph, new bus deliveries result in a large decrease in buses over 15 years old. This chart shows the current fleet size, 5,767 buses, and make up for both NYCT and MTA bus, which I will discuss in further detail in the remaining slides.
Mr. Higgins, maybe you want to dispense with a lot of that detail since these are summaries.
Okay.
Are there any questions that any of the members have?
I just had,
Mr. Pally.
we've heard a lot about fare evasion, and obviously fare evasion on the bus system has been highlighted significantly. If you go back to the slide that has the, I don't want to use the word amenities, that's not the correct term, characteristics might be a better term, on the boarding issue, could you discuss in some at some point what the automatic, or how the automatic boarding counter will or will not help? One more, back or forward, depending on your point of view. The next one, right there, automatic passenger counters. How does that relate to fare evasion, which clearly, from what I've read, happens more often on the back door than the front door?
Yeah, it's not really a system to address fare evasion. It's more a system to validate the number of people that are boarding and alighting, to give us better feedback in terms of the actual number of passengers that are riding at any given time, to the point where we'll be able to show on express buses, as an example, how many passengers are on the vehicle, so that a person that's using the app would be able to know whether or not the bus that's approaching them is full or there's actually room on the bus.
Okay.
But may I just add to that? Thank you, John. But ultimately, technology will work for us in two ways. One, because where the way APCs work, as John just described, is kind of like an electronic threshold. So it automatically counts you on and it counts you off. So that's good intel to have. So what you will be able to do is ultimately then compare that to the data derived from the tap, where with the new fair payment method, you have to tap your card or your phone or your credit card on the reader. If you noticed over time, particularly as we migrate towards pretty much everyone using that system, that there's a big disconnect between the amount of people crossing the threshold and the amount of taps, that says to me there's a whole bunch of people sneaking on without tapping.
Right.
And the good news also about having the new fair payment method in place is it provides proof of payment throughout the journey. Whereas at the moment, say you snuck on the back door and an inspector got on 10 stops down the line and said, did you pay? I don't think you paid, or I've got for some reason to suspect you didn't. You go, oh, no, I definitely did. I dropped some money in the box on the way in. Well, the operator probably wouldn't have noticed or wouldn't remember, because there's a sea of people getting on and off. With the new fair payment system, they will have readers where you can say to any customer on the bus or a subway train for that matter, may I see proof of payments? You show your card or your phone, and in a split second they can tell, did you tap yes or no?
But that's all great, but that is going to require a personnel or a person from us on the bus asking for that to happen.
It will, but I'm
not arguing that's not a good thing.
Sure.
It is the next context.
No, absolutely. But what you're doing is you won't realistically have someone on every bus. What you need to do for effective revenue protection is create a sufficient deterrent such that the chancers, as I call them, not the recidivists, the people who are determined to avoid the fare, they still will, but the chances who people think, oh, I might get away with this, won't, because chances are you may well have an inspector get on, and in which case the fine is kind of painful. The only thing that I've never seen it done, but I've always wondered is if you could have, in addition to the electronic threshold that counts you on and off, is if you could also have that automatically deduct you.
Right.
There's some technology out there that does that kind of thing. So certainly with Oyster on the tube, you don't have to physically place your card on the reader. You can be in fairly close proximity.
Because one would assume that when we get to that fair payment system on the buses, that you're going to be able to get, some people are going to be able to get on without doing that. That's what we're trying to avoid.
It is.
So the question is, if they do that, will we know who they are at some point?
Well, they're
and
risking.
Can we deduct it automatically from the account they have, assuming they have an account?
One of my mantras is that anything's possible. So I think technically, yes, that's possible. But you would be able to find if an inspector, an Eagle team got on the bus, then you would know straight away, because they'd say, well, clearly you haven't tapped. And the other thing you have on a reader is an audible sound, and typically, say, a green check if you've actually validated your fare payment, so that other customers, there's a bit of peer pressure here, other customers can soon see, did you sneak on, because there'll be no noise if you didn't tap your card. There's quite a lot of protection.
May I suggest that this conversation is more properly had when we're discussing new fare payments, because that's where the technologies will be married.
Okay. All right, that's no problem. I mean, the only thing it's going to do, one other thing is, it's going to require us through this system or any other system to have some idea of where this is happening as opposed to other areas, because you want, obviously, to coordinate your enforcement efforts in places where it is happening, because you want to give that perception, because clearly we can't have somebody on every bus.
No, but again, last point, sorry, Chair. You get that through comparing the on-offs with the taps.
Right. Okay. Thank you. Sorry about that, sir.
Mr. Brown,
Yeah, I know you're trying to move it along, Freddie. I can. But just quickly about the all-electric articulateds. What other properties are running an all-electric articulated? It's got like the 2-axle drive.
So LA has an order in, and we've actually spoken with the Boston folks who don't have an electric bus. They have a trolley bus with dual, and it's the only Artics that they leave on the road during the winter operations.
Are battery driven though? That's
They're not battery. They have like an overhead, electric, but they're still an electric vehicle. But they do have that dual drive axle, and they have excellent performance with it.
How does the LA plan work in the snow?
Not sure they're expecting too much. Yeah. So I'll skip through about 6 slides which sort of highlight the current deliveries.
That's right.
Yeah, they're all on schedule. And the last slide basically shows the remaining procurements for the 15 to 19 program. And that concludes the buses rolling stock.
Thank you. IEC.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. IEC's bus procurement report begins on page 53 of your CPOC book. IEC has following 3 comments to highlight for discussion today. With respect to the budget, the overall bus procurement budget program is within budget. With respect to the overall bus procurement schedule, the IEC can confirm that the production deliveries are on schedule. The project team continues to review the latest submitted schedule for the 251 Nova Clean Diesel buses, where significant progress has been made to bring the planned deliveries in line with the contractual delivery dates. And finally, we have observed that the project team efforts in working closely with the bus vendors in tackling unique challenges and standardizing charging protocols associated with new bus technologies. This continued effort should deliver positive results in the implementation and operations in the bus program. And that concludes our report. Thank you.
Thank you. If there are no further questions on this for IEC, if there are no further questions for this for IEC, may I have a motion to adjourn?
May I just make one note?
Please.
Just to note that the commitments and completion reports are fully included in the agenda items starting on page 57. Thank you.
Motion to adjourn. Second, all in favor. This meeting is adjourned, and next up is audit.